Never trust Amazon Games. That is the gist of this video because time and time again we have seen their heavy-handed localization of games, and each time project directors have tried to say it's not that big of a deal if a few things get changed around when games are brought to the West, and now Blue Protocol is under scrutiny since the franchise lead is standing by the censorship in its upcoming release. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media so you can see when my content is posted, and of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and live streams I create, consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or supporter via YouTube memberships. So starting off with this Niche Gamer article, it says Amazon Games stands by Blue Protocol censorship, and I wholeheartedly expected this, no matter how sad it is. I always look at, anime-themed games with a critical eye now, because we have seen so many be twisted around, changed around just slightly so that people don't notice before release, and then they buy it, they support it, and then they realize I love this game, so I don't care about the censorship anymore, and it is getting absurd. It says the upcoming Bandai Namco game Blue Protocol released last month in Japan. Things are taking quite a bit longer for an international release, and part of that appears to be localization changes being made. In a recent interview with the Blue Protocol database, the site spoke with the franchise lead about the game's upcoming English release through publisher Amazon Games. That is another giant red flag. It says, that when confronted about censorship, he admitted the content changes were in pursuit of a teen rating. So, the interviewer says, let's start with the first question. Censorship is a huge topic in the West. Can you confirm if elements of the game will be changed in Blue Protocol to fit the Western scene? If yes, may you please expand on this subject? First of all, I think that it's pretty absurd that they asked and presented it this way, to fit the Western scene. What is that? What is the Western scene? Do you mean to appease sensitive snowflakes who would try to get this game canceled? I felt that that was kind of a weird way to word it, but Mike, the franchise lead, said, so I'll talk at a high level in terms of the goals and what we are trying to accomplish in this, and then we'll go back down to the specifics. Oh my god, all he does is ramble and tries to avoid the topic. Look at all this text. This is just from the one simple question. He says, I think censorship comes in different ways, and the level of censorship is usually where we find disagreements within the community. Generally speaking, when we are talking about censorship for Blue Protocol, we want to bring the vision for the game and for Western players. However, there are layers we have to think about from a cultural, legal, and a regulatory perspective. We want the content and the events to be the same one-to-one. When we talk about changes, we are looking at a perspective from bringing the game to as many people as possible. He goes on to admit that they are willing to censor the game, and they have censored the game in order to get a T for teen rating. We are targeting a T rating since it is as an anime game, and generally speaking, anime is much more approachable for the teen market unless you start going towards certain extremes. This game does not really play to those extremes. Now, is he going to give us any more information on what those extremes are? No. He probably just wanted to say perverted individuals, because that's just the running theme, right? If you have an anime game and you are not going all in with fan service, typically it's because individuals behind the project say that, well, there are some interesting individuals in our community that we don't want to pander to, we don't want to appease, and that usually equals perverts, which is just so absurd, but it's something that we've heard time and time again, and they're mentioning extremes. The general changes that we are looking at is how do we make that approach to this game a change for us in the West, specifically in the character creation menu. The female characters will no longer have the physics shake button available. These are the types of changes that are culturally accepted in Japan, in which they do in their titles. However, in the West, it can be uncomfortable for our players, and that's where we will step in and say, hey, can we make a slight change to this? He is full full on admitting they are afraid of cancellation and afraid to put fan service in this title. That's what it boils down to. They are removing something like jiggle physics. That is their worry. That is their concern. That is what they think is culturally insensitive. They don't want to admit it, but they are clearly afraid of being canceled for pushing the limits, which honestly isn't even really pushing the limits because so many games have jiggle physics. And then, of course, they go on to say one of the other changes we've talked about, which players have already seen, is about making some changes to outfits of the children characters to make some outfits less revealing. These things are not necessarily going to detract from the gameplay experience or from the story that is going on, but they're saying that, they're not necessarily going to be pulled out of the environments of the game perspective, but they are full on admitting that this game is going to face censorship, and this is so sad to see because I don't want this to happen, right? I want games to come out, I want them to be good, I want them to in general just be enjoyable experiences, but you just can't trust developers these days. And of course, as you saw, this is being published by Amazon Games, and they have done this before. I had talked about this back in 2022, but Lost Ark is censored in the Western release, and they actually made characters more diverse by changing the skin colors of several characters and NPCs throughout the base game, and they did this only in the West. They changed outfits, they toned them down, they added like the black fabric of death, like the black bodysuits underneath where their cleavage would be or thighs would be showing, any kind of skin, let's be honest. And yeah, they made characters more diverse. I don't mind diversity in games, don't get me wrong, but they only did this for one specific region, and we've already known for a while that Blue Protocol was going to be censored. Data Mines back in March suggested that they planned to censor it. There were different model images that were leaked, as you can see. The Japanese versus US were vastly different. They got rid of skirts and replaced them with pants. They brought down, shirts so that they were covering, stomach areas. We can't show a belly button these days. They basically just covered up the characters. Also, they changed their proportions a little bit, gave them a little bit less cleavage, gave them thinner thighs in some cases. And we also saw how lazy they truly were with these, with these cutscenes and the animations. I mean, in a crowd of characters, they just would place the same character model over and over and over because they just couldn't be bothered with taking the time and putting in the effort. It's just a very sad situation to see all around. This is a game that like a year ago people were pretty freaking excited for. I know I had a lot of people suggesting me, put it on my upcoming live stream list and play it when it released, but there's no way that I'm going to touch it now. And I can't, again, say that I'm all that surprised. I'm sure a lot of you are not that surprised to hear that this game has been basically butchered so that they can get a T for teen rating, and so that they can, ultimately, hopefully not get canceled and trigger individuals in the West. But it's clear to see the reasons why they've toned it down. And, I know I personally will not be supporting Blue Protocol now, and I do think that when this finally releases in the West, we are going to see a lot of backlash over these changes. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.